All right, all right. I'm excited to be here again. Monday Morning Motivation. Got some great things going on. Thought that I had some connectivity issues, but everything is going well. So I'm glad to have you here once again. So if you're going to join us anytime soon this morning, I know we've got some tired hours from watching the Super Bowl last night. We have some disappointed fans, a lot of onlookers. I know we have a lot of people that weren't Patriots or Eagles fans, I'm sure, but a lot of people just watching for a good game. But hopefully you are doing well this morning. So here we are again, just to go over some things. Don't have a plan that is so rigid that it does not allow room for flexibility. So as I mentioned last week, I meet you guys after I do my exercise. There were some things that took priority, so I had to make sure that I saw to doing those things. But the great thing is my plan is not so rigid that I still can't complete my exercise. So I have the plans to go and do that tonight after work. And here's the great thing, I've got a backup to the backup, which is I only need to work out or exercise 5 days a week. So if I'm unable to do it today, then I still have 2 bullets in my chamber that I can make it work. So again, don't have a plan that's so rigid that you can't, that it does not allow room for flexibility. On the heels of that, let's talk a little bit or review some from last week. We talked about organization and making sure that we're able to prioritize the things that are around us, the things that are in our life, right? Because if we don't prioritize ourselves, things for ourselves, then other people will prioritize them for us. I'm sure if you're like me, you already have enough people telling you what to do. So get back some of that freedom that you would like to have for yourself, all right? Okay, great. So in the midst of that, let's move forward. So those that saw the preview from yesterday know that we were talking about New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions. Great idea in concept, great idea in theory, but it doesn't exactly work the same way that we'd like it to, right? In actuality, in real time. And why is that? Why is it the fact that, it doesn't work as well as we'd like it to? However, a lot of people decide that they want to have the New Year's resolutions every year, right? But it's not effective for a lot of people. So why are people still doing it? So the reason New Year's resolutions are ineffective is because it's a temporary spark or temporary inspiration, or it's based on temporary inspiration. It's the same as if you were to go out and buy a new car, a new house, and you commit to keeping it clean, right? Maybe definitely the first day and the first week, maybe even the first few months, you're scrubbing, you're cleaning, you're doing the things that you need to do to keep your house and to keep this new thing that you purchase clean. But as time goes on and as things happen and you get a bit jaded in that area, you decide you kind of fall off of it, right? And that's why it's important for you to have the things that I mentioned yesterday. You saw the road close, roadblocks, okay? This is why it's important for you to have roadblocks in place, because the regression back to your old habits is so subtle that you don't even notice it. It's happening not day by day, but it's happening moment by moment. So here's what happens. You set in motion your New Year's resolution and you decide exactly what it is you want to do, and you're going to move forward, right? Well, as time goes along, and you maybe don't, let's say it's exercise or eating well, and you see some results, but you hit a plateau. And I know this from personal experience, when you exercise and when you're eating right, that you're going to hit a plateau, right? That is across the board. A plateau means that you need to change something up. You need to do something new. And so you hit that plateau. You don't have the same high that you did when you started out with this New Year's resolution, and you're trying to find ways to keep up with this new habit, and then it becomes ineffective, or it becomes you're unable to keep up with the things that you need to because it's not convenient. There's the word I was looking for. It's inconvenient for you to move forward in the things that you need to do. So when it becomes inconvenient, your body starts to go back, because there's this negative pressure or this negative stress when you start to be inconvenienced, and you start to go back to the old habits. You start to go back to doing the different things. You start to go back to making these quick meals. You start to go back to, oh well, I won't exercise today, I'll exercise later tonight, or I'll do it next week. And there's a slow fade to go back. It's the same concept as the frog in the boiling water, right? If you put a frog in lukewarm water, and then you immediately turn it to boiling heat, what happens? We all know the frog jumps out of the water, but we've all been taught what happens if you move the heat up incrementally. If you move the needle up incrementally, the frog doesn't jump out. What it actually does is it adjusts to the environment around him. So the frog adjusts to the environment around him. And so that's what happens to us with these New Year's resolutions, is as things happen incrementally in our lives, we adjust to the things around us, instead of keeping to the new habits, staying focused, staying aware. So as we move through life, it's important that we keep to the new habits that we have. Another example is a rubber band. Okay, so here this morning I have a rubber band. We all understand the different uses of rubber bands, right? So a rubber band, the great thing about it is it can stretch. You pull it, it stretches, right? But do you notice what's happening as I'm pulling on this rubber band and I'm stretching it? It's what? It's going back to its original shape. It's going back to its original form. So no matter how hard I tug on this rubber band right now, it's still going back to its original form. So it's not until you stretch the rubber band so far that it gets to its breaking point that you're able to break the cycle or break the loop and enter a new form or enter new habits. And so here's the thing that happens with most people. We start out with our New Year's resolution, and we start moving forward, and we start stretching. And then we stretch to a point that we feel the pressure, and the pressure is too great. And so where we should have a strategic plan or have things in place in order to move forward, we don't have those things in place. And so we quickly retract back to our old habits. And so that's why New Year's resolutions are ineffective, because it's not based on a long-term strategic plan. It does not have things in place that are going to allow you to be successful. So that begs the question, right? How do we become successful with new resolutions or moving forward with new habits? I'm going to share with you 3 things that I do that have worked for me. And the first thing is, you have to make sure that you have multiple sources of influence or multiple sources of stimulation. What I mean by that is, I've got different people that I listen to, maybe different books that I read, different areas of motivation. Why? Because if you use the same tool over and over again, this is what happened. The tool becomes dull. If I use the same knife, it could be the sharpest knife in the world, but if I use that knife and only that knife, over time that knife is going to become dull. So likewise with motivation, if you use the same motivation and stimulation in order to reach your goals, that knife will become dull, and that tool will ultimately become ineffective. The second thing is, you want to make sure that you set new habits in place that allow you to focus on your goals. Here's what I mean by that. Here's my new habit. My new habit is and it's easy for me to do. On the way to work, I have something going on in my ear, or something playing in my ear, that keeps me motivated in the area that I desire to grow in. So you have to, again, go back to understanding your purpose. You have to choose that for yourself. You have to choose which area is most important to you in the areas which you want to grow in, whether it be health, whether it be finance, whether it be family, emotionally, relationally. You choose that, and you set the tone in your car on the way to work. Also on the way home from work, I set the tone by doing the same thing. So when I meet obstacles or I meet oppositions, that pressure, I'm going to grab my rubber band again, that pressure in which I don't want to continue forward and I want to go back, I have these things consistently going on in my ear so that I don't retract back, but I continue going forward. And ultimately, the desire is that this rubber band or that the old habits are going to burst at the seams, and I'm going to break forward into a new habit. Okay? And the last thing, the third thing that I mentioned, is it's important for you to have public accountability. Public accountability. Here's what I mean by that. You know, if you set a goal for yourself and you're trying to reach that goal and you've determined in your own mind how you're going to get there and when you want to get there, there is a certain power or a certain energy behind that. But when you are accountable to someone else or to other people, and the more people you're accountable to, the more that energy or the more that factor, accountability factor, is multiplied. Why? You don't want to look bad in front of other people. You have a certain level of self-esteem. You have a certain level of pride that you take in yourself, and a level of seriousness that you have when it comes to doing the things that you want to do. So when you include people that you trust and you are accountable to them regarding the things that are important to you, it adds more and more tiers of accountability. So I want to go over those 3 points again, okay? Of course, you can stop the video and go back and watch it. But it's important to have multiple sources of motivation or inspiration, because as one tool becomes dull, you can depend on the other tools and use those interchangeably. It's also important to make sure that you set an environment that is easy, or it forces you to keep the things, your new goals, top of mind. It forces you to keep your new goals top of mind. And then the third thing is public accountability. And multiply that factor out. If you have a friend circle, if you have a large family, if you have a church family, whatever the case is, people that you trust and you know are going to keep you accountable. And I would suggest multiple people in terms of accountability, because everyone has their own thing, right? Everyone is focused on what it is that they have to do. So if you multiply that factor in terms of the number of people that you include in that accountability factor, then you have multiple people overlapping, checking in, making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, that's it for today. Move forward in your day. As we come back, we're going to talk about how to successfully cultivate an environment in which you're able to perform or accomplish multiple goals. Okay? So not just one goal, but multiple goals. So enjoy your day, be extremely motivated, and do all that you're supposed to do. Take care.